Hi, I'm Sharon Smallwood, and together with my good friend and colleague Phil Gordon, we're very pleased to be bringing you the Whitsunday People video podcast. Our first 5 podcasts, of which this is one, are connected. They might be 5 very different women, but they're all working towards the same cause, which is our inaugural Team Whitsundays Dancing CEOs raising funds and awareness for Women's Legal Service Queensland. I do need to let you know that this contains themes around domestic and family violence, and if you or anyone you know is triggered by these themes or needs to speak to a professional, please follow the help links in the podcast description. We do very much hope that you find these women's stories engaging, inspiring, and informative. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Whitsunday People video podcast, where myself, Sharon Smallwood, and Phil Gordon from Riptide Creative bring you the stories from people in our Whitsunday community who are really making a difference and contributing to community. Today, I've got someone with me who is all about community. It's Katelyn Aslett-Collins. She's a 3-time dancing CEO and now mentor to the inaugural Team Whitsundays dancing CEOs, an ambassador for Women's Legal Service Queensland, founder of the Jet Raffle, which we'll talk more about later, but it's now a super yacht raffle, very connected to the Whitsundays, the 2024 Queensland Gives Emerging Philanthropist of the Year, founder and director at My Giving Table, a founder and director at Taste Whitsundays, based at the Whitsunday Coast Airport, and I believe Whitehaven Event Co. is part you too. And married to Kevin Collins, who's a very well-known charismatic chef, caterer and restaurateur around these parts. Also now working with the Epic Walk for DV team to bring this formerly Brisbane-based event to the Whitsundays for the first time. Katelyn, I feel like that's just a massive introduction. It's very impressive, but it only scratches the surface of everything that you are about and that you do. So I just wanted to start with your background. When you, as I mentioned just then, one of the many things that I mentioned was that you're the 2024 Queensland Gives Emerging Philanthropist of the Year.
Yep.
I noticed that when you got up and accepted the award that night, you thanked your mum for allowing you to, you said, for allowing me to grow without a sense of entitlement or a feeling of being better than anyone else. And that's where it starts with me.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about your upbringing and how you came to that?
So, thank you, Sharon. Lovely to be here today. I'm I guess, 3rd generation North Queensland girl. Interesting that we're having all of these floods. I've got pictures of my grandmother sitting on the roof of a 2-story building as a 3-year-old, way back at the turn of last century, as the floodwaters were lapping on not the bottom of the building, but the top roof of the 2-story building.
Wow. This was in Townsville?
Well, she was in Home Hill.
Okay.
In that flood. So I think that was the flood of 1901 or night. Anyway, so yes, my grandmother was born up here. My parents were all born up here. 2 grandmothers, I think, were here from very early age. So I'm very much a proud North Queensland girl. And I think anyone who grows up, I spent all my childhood in Townsville. And I think just generally North Queenslanders don't have tickets on themselves because life is kind of a little bit, low key.
Possibly a bit tougher?
It's, I think we're aware of being isolated a lot of the time, and nobody really tries to big note. Everyone gets together as a community. So I think my parents were both small business owners. We had everything we needed. We had great pets and gardens, and I think the first 10 years of my life, I was living on a small amount of acreage. We had everything from ducks and peacocks and chickens and bantam roosters and goats and horses and all sorts. So it was a very proper North Queensland grounding. If there were snakes eating my chickens when they hatched, I would sneak out of my bedroom window and bring all the chickens in and line them up on either side of me in the bed. Mum would come in and there'd be a whole lot of chickens and all the chicken poo in bed with me. But I'd kept the chickens alive, so all that kind of classic, fell off a horse when I was 3 and was concussed and didn't know who I was and nearly drowned in the fish tank. There was all sorts of adventurous stories. So yes, I didn't have many tickets on myself because I just had a great adventurous, muddy, wild, climbing trees and getting chased by pigs and snakes kind of childhood.
That's amazing. It sort of almost shows the importance of that, I suppose, because you did leave North Queensland and went to the city, didn't you? You went to Brisbane. But I suppose you took all of that with you?
Well, I ended up in Brisbane. I left high school and went to Brisbane to get work and then very quickly headed off to Africa to do community work. So by the time I was 19, I left Townsville, I think at 17, worked for a year in Brisbane, worked 3 or 4 jobs at the time to save money and ended up going and doing 6 months of community work in Kenya.
Wow.
So that's, I guess, number one, I was always adventurous. And number 2, I always had a sense of how fortunate I was to be born in a good extended family of loving kindness. I saw that as a privilege. So in my life, I figure I'm one of the lucky ones that I had the support and love around me that everyone deserves, but most people don't get. We weren't from poverty. We were fortunate. So for me, that sense of obligation to give back, it comes from that space of just knowing, with the good fortune of being safe and loved as a child and having a good, safe future, that gives the privilege, but also the obligation. So you're privileged to be so fortunate, therefore there is just an obligation to do what you can for others who just don't have the same thing. And I saw that in Africa, where there was people there as happy as you could imagine them, but living, the women were walking 10 kilometres to get dirty water to take back. Then they would have to walk 10 kilometres in another direction to get the sticks to boil the water to make it safe. So their whole day was spent just getting safe water to give to their children. And yet they were full of more, kind of general awe at the world and love and
satisfaction almost.
Not being look at me, I deserve more, which is such a pandemic at the moment. I'm so tired of being in a world where everybody thinks that they're so important that they deserve everything. We don't deserve anything. The very fact we're here is a privilege. And if we have anything, it is ours to be able to do for others that don't.
Yeah.
I guess.
So I've spent time in Africa, in Kenya, coincidentally, as well. And I remember flying into, just even landing in Nairobi airport, and that being a massive culture shock and a big eye-opener. I was only there for about 3 or 4 months. I worked for 3 of those. My experience was very different to yours. I wasn't there doing community work. What were you doing? What was that work, and what was the outcome?
I was there as part of Operation Rally, which is a British, an organisation that takes young people and still is working all around the world. So it's just, if you're at all interested in giving back, they're one of those organisations where as a young person you can raise money and you pay for the privilege to go and build schools or dispensaries. So the jobs we did, we built a school in a small community where the kids had been sitting under a tree with slate, they didn't have shade. They're in the 40-degree heat.
Yeah.
So we built them a school. We built a dispensary in another little village. We carried dynamite to the top of Mount Kenya because climbing was becoming a big thing, but there was no toilets or long drops on the top of Mount Kenya. And so that was seen as a bit of a environmental hazard because people were there was frozen poo everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
Just to get straight to it. So we carried dynamite up with a whole lot of British, army kind of guys that knew about explosives, and we dynamited the top of Mount Kenya into long drops so that there'd be poo in a long drop instead
of on the top of the mountain. That's amazing.
So yeah, and also actually the other thing we did was we did a rescue station for the endangered white rhino, which again is another.
Wow.
Back then there was only, I think, they were down to a few, not even a few hundred, just a few. They're now, I've seen, like the whales here. It's another thing that I've had through my life is humans can do well and do well very often, but we focus often on all the bad things. And you look at the whales are back at 1800 levels, the rhinos are coming back, the chimpanzees are coming back. There's so much when people choose to do well.
Yeah.
Amazing things happen. And there are so many stories that our young people should be hearing.
Yes.
To give them hope and faith in the fact that humanity is a good thing.
Yes.
Because I think so much at the moment we're told
is doom and gloom.
Humanity is the problem.
Yes.
And I think that's a prophecy that leads us to a place none of us want to go.
Well, it's just, and it's not true, is it? Because things aren't black and white.
No.
There's so much grey in the mix.
Yeah.
So, and how old were you when you were in Kenya?
I landed there, I was 19.
So this is the age when a lot of people, to put this into perspective, are backpacking. I mean, I myself was I was a little bit older than that when I came over here and when I went to work in Kenya. But as a backpacker, that sort of age, and wow, that's so different from that experience because, again, I suppose that's just very, traveling is not necessarily selfish because you're learning by default. But what you did was intentionally unselfish and giving, and that was even from that early age.
Yeah, I think I still think it was selfish. I wanted an adventure and I got one.
Yeah.
It was very much what I wanted to do, but I guess I shouldn't be, dismissive of it. I didn't want to just be traveling and having privileged travel. I wanted to fully experience the communities that I was in.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that an opportunity came and I went through that door and took that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So at the end of that adventure, do you think that changed you, by the way? Do you think you came back to Australia a different person at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think it reinforced. So funny thing is, Sharon, I think the thing that changed me was I nearly drowned when I was a toddler on Magnetic Island. I went into my grandmother's fish pond, and it was only that my uncle had pulled me out, and I pretty much was dead. I needed reviving. And so I actually think that's the moment that I most learnt that we're here, there, but for the grace of God, we could be gone at any minute. And so I don't think Africa changed me in particular. It made me more full of awe and wonder and love for the world. But it reinforced the things that I'd felt through growing up, that just how fortunate I was and how privileged I was and how lucky we all are to have this amazing earth that we live in. So yeah, I think
that wasn't the defining moment.
That wasn't a defining moment. I mean, I already knew I wanted to go, and I think I received all the things that I was hopeful of in going.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's wow, what a story about the near-death experience as a toddler. That's quite something.
Yeah.
So going back to, we'll get back to the 19-year-old coming back from Kenya. where did you go then? Back to Brisbane? What was?
I went back up to Townsville for a short time and then continued travelling. I took off a bit more as a wanderer around Australia and ended up spending a year or a year and a half kind of in a little, like a little combi van type thing, travelling around lots of Australia, and ended up doing, walking with caravans and camels in the, to the back of Burke, and all sorts of wonderful experiences. And then pretty much ended up living in Western New South Wales for several years, and then came back to Townsville. Oh gee, yeah, I've traveled.
You've
been
around.
Yeah, and then I ended up in Brisbane more, more in sort of midlife, where I was working in a corporate role. So yeah, I hadn't really spent long in Brisbane until I was in my mid-30s, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what led you into the corporate world?
Well, that's another whole story. So I had been working for myself for about 20 years. I had my own design business.
Okay. Designing what?
Textiles and fabrics, and selling all over the world and traveling all over the world. And
Was that for fashion? Was it for?
it started out, I was doing felting, so it was pretty much a very, very hands-on craft process. So I was hand making and selling things. It started as an accident because I was living on a farm in New South Wales. We had a little flower farm, and as a side hustle, I had 2 young children, and at night I started making things. And what happened was I would go to Sydney to sell the flowers we were growing, and I would take some of the things I'd handmade, and I found that the market was there more for the things I'd handmade, not as much for the flowers. I mean, I sold some flowers, but I was enjoying. So gradually I transitioned out of a flower farm into a full-time felt and textile designer. And just interesting, how that evolved. Eventually, I guess as an artist, you don't always make a lot of money making art the hard way, but I was very focused on being true to the design, aesthetic, etc. So I did do things the hard way, and I developed my designs into digital print. So I was one of the first designers in Australia to do a full collection of digital print art-inspired fashion.
Wow.
So that was my way of commercializing without selling out. So it was still an authentic artwork that I'd created. And then, so, I'd won export awards, and I'd sold, all sorts of various. That's another whole big.
It's like another life.
Yeah. New York Fashion Week, Singapore, Hong Kong Fashion Week, all over. Lots of fun stuff.
You mentioned that you had your kids by then. So this is all happening as a mum.
Yeah.
So when did family come into it?
Well, when I wasn't traveling, I had a pretty fun rustic studio, and the kids would spend, I was a single mum at that point, so the kids would be with me one week and not the other week, and I'd fit most of my travel and adventure in when the kids were not with me, and when they were with me, they were living in the studio with me. So it was pretty fun.
That's almost, I'm picturing you as some sort of artist hippie mum almost, but then the New York Fashion Week isn't quite part of that picture. But yeah,
it was quite. I was, as Kev likes to say, we're chameleons.
Okay.
So he is as well, and I think that's why we are incredibly compatible, because we're both able to
fit in with whatever world you're in.
And it's actually funny when you sit to do a conversation like this that you think, oh gee, how do you fit your life in? I have had multiple very different lives.
Yeah. So that's fascinating.
It's quite funny.
And so again, that just seems so, even that world seems so removed from the corporate world in Brisbane, from which you then sort of came
Yeah,
here.
and I guess what happened. So I got to a point that I sort of burnt out in my business. I'd been, incredibly focused on it. It was relentless. I had people contacting me from around the world wanting me to do parades or designs for da da da. It got exhausting, and about that time, I think my daughter went through a spell of not being really well, and was having a few challenges, and I thought, you know what, I've just burnt out of this life.
Yeah.
So we just kind of, I call it my sleeping lion phase. I just wanted to go right back to myself again and think what's happening. And then a corporate opportunity came out. And at first I thought, I don't really fit in this corporate role. And then I realized actually my whole life had been one of an entrepreneur and an authentic, business-focused person, but I think I just had been developing those skills as being business community, aware of all the levels. I mean, business is quite complex, and so is the charity sector. So I think when I got in the corporate role, I realised that I was a very good fit, even though when I got asked to take that role on, I felt like an imposter.
Alien a little bit,
Because I thought I've never been in this sort of a corporate. I'd never actually really worked for anyone else.
Well, I noticed that when you were a dancing CEO, the dancing CEO's page referred to you as an energetic and dynamic businesswoman. So
Yeah.
there's obviously something there that perhaps.
Yes, and yeah, and I think quite frankly, anyone who can survive as in an arts business for more than 20 years, it's certainly it's a challenging sector to be in. So I think that certainly set me up to have a lot of skills that of resilience, and also I was dealing in that business because I was dealing with people all over the world. So I was dealing in other languages. I was trading in other currencies.
So it was Adagold Aviation that you went to work for, wasn't it?
Yes. So yeah, in the corporate role.
And you were the market development manager.
Mm.
And so what did that you go on with what you were saying?
So it was mainly so in that role it was mainly dealing. Adagold is a private charter company. We do a lot of government and sort of military work, as well as also doing VIP clients, etc., but globally. So it was a Brisbane-based company, but we did charter work and flights internationally. So my role was really just to look for new markets and new relationships and build up new segments. So it did involve, going to China and going to Europe and traveling across Australia a lot, and it was using the skills that I'd had from my fashion, because in the fashion industry and in the design industry, I was already working in that. I understood different currencies. I understood buying and selling and trading in different currencies. I understood the nuances of doing business with another culture.
Yeah.
You don't show up to a business meeting in Turkey or Libya in the same way that you show up to a business meeting in Hong Kong or China or Fiji,
yes,
for example.
Yeah.
But I've had to do business in all of those places. So
that's where your chameleon came.
You have to actually, you have to be aware, and yeah, it's fun.
Was it at that time when you were working for Adagold that Women's Legal Service and Dancing CEOs came into your life?
Yeah. So as in that role, I was approached to be one of the dancing CEOs way back, I think in 2017 maybe, or
who asked you? How did it come about?
Somebody in the business world that I'd been doing, one of my contacts. I think he was in finance. Just in Brisbane, the dancing CEOs was building up a great deal of following. Anyone in that sort of top business level in Brisbane tends to have heard about it or known about it, and everyone every year was looking for who who might be a good person to get involved and for whatever reason, may say yes to jumping up on stage, embarrassing themselves and raising money.
So this is where you're the perfect person to articulate more on this, because obviously we've already sat down with we've had Alice and Julie Telford chat with us already about, and they're two of the 4 inaugural Team Whitsundays dancing CEOs. But each time I've sort of said to them, or roughly explain what dancing CEOs is, but you really know more about it than anybody else and are probably the best person to articulate. So how would you explain dancing CEOs?
Okay. So originally the dancing CEOs was an idea of, you've got a charity,
which is Women's Legal
Service, and they desperately need funds to continue to do better and to do more for what their remit as a charity is, which is supporting women and children through domestic violence, particularly with their hotline service and their free legal advice, etc. So they came up with a concept of dancing CEOs, which was an absolute brilliant brainchild, because it's getting people from the top level of corporate and industry and getting them to dedicate their time and resources
and
networks and that's it, towards learning to dance, having some fun, culminating in a big event at Brisbane City Hall that 1,000 people come to enjoy the spectacle, because it is an amazing spectacle.
And that's just annual, isn't it? Every
year. And so pretty much the CEOs sign on and commit to raising it as an X amount of money. Use their networks, have fundraising events, as many as they can, or raffles or auctions, or just take a click out of their business, whatever it is. They raise as much money as they can at the same time as learning to dance, and then they get up on stage, and it's just beautiful, because you've got everybody that commits to it is coming from the same heart and the same place of, how can I say no to this? It is, it is all about what you're doing and giving. And they're all dedicated to both raising awareness as well as funds, and just, airing out the fact that this is it is a big issue in our society and our community, and we do need to do better.
So you were approached to become a dancing CEO. You knew a little bit about the program and the organisation because in Brisbane it was on people's radar. What was that first experience like, the first time? I can't believe you've been one 3 times, because I can see what's involved in being one just once. But
yeah.
So what was that first experience like?
Oh, it was just fabulous. And actually the first time when I was asked, I literally got a phone call, and I think it was March. So what had happened is someone who dedicated or committed to being involved in September had to pull out. So they found themselves in February being down.
Yeah.
And I just got a phone call, and I didn't actually really know what I was even saying yes to. I just said, yeah, sure, I'll put my name down, I'm in. So I really only had sort of half of March, April, and then it was May. So I really only had, I think, 6 weeks to both learn the dance and raise some money. And in that I thought, well, that's fine. I've got all these great contacts in travel. So that was when the jet raffle, I work for a jet company. So I said, hey guys, you're going to get behind me. We're going to pull a jet together, and we're going to fly somewhere, maybe Sydney, or, I think the first year we flew, I think it was a day trip to Sydney. And I put together that jet raffle prize just to raise money for my tally at that stage.
Were you part of a team? Were you joining?
No,
you were
I was just on my own.
Wow.
Yeah. So back then, mostly it was on their own. They've only started teams over the last couple of years, actually. I think the first team was maybe 3 years ago. Before then, it was generally one person as the CEO dancing with a team of either 4 or 8 dancers.
Like backing dancers.
Backing dancers,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny.
Gosh, that's even more incredible, really, to think it's ballsy, isn't it? Because I think for me, I would imagine doing it with a team. It's almost like you've got these other girls or girls and guys who've got your back.
Yeah.
But to stand up and do that on your own.
Yeah, and I guess we all that's the thing. I honestly didn't know what I was saying yes to when I said yes, but I'm glad I did, because the networks that you meet, the people that were involved from that first year, it was just so much fun and so meaningful. And I think we got the companionship out of the other dancers. So if you're a dancer and I'm a dancer, we're supporting each other.
Yeah.
Like the way the girls are now with each other, keeping in touch and giving each other pats on the back or support, or, you know, someone to cry with if there's a trouble. We were doing that with the other dancers. So we became the other dancers in our year. You built up this great rapport and friendship. And then I was lucky that we then had the chance to put the jet raffle together again. And that's how I really stayed involved every year, and it just grew.
So the next year, you did the jet raffle again, but you weren't a
I
dancing
wasn't a dancer,
CEO.
so I was just a sponsor at that point.
Okay.
So basically, myself and Ada Gold were sponsoring the jet raffle and creating that.
Yeah.
And just acting as a support or mentor to any of the other CEOs that year, and then that just grew out. And I think that after 2 or 3 years of that, Women's Legal Service said, well, how about you become an ambassador? And I thought, sure, that's great. I'm already, of course. So
that was something that I really wanted to ask you about, because over the years, you've been involved with a lot of charities. We haven't really spoken yet too much, other than mentioning it about your My Giving Table initiative. But I know even through that, there's been a lot of support that will go to a variety of charities.
About 15 or 20 different charities we've raised money for now.
I mean, I had a quick look, and just even in the last couple of years, I saw that you've been involved with Oz Harvest through the Moreton Bay Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah.
You've also supported Open Haven, which is another domestic violence related charity.
Yeah, they're a beautiful charity.
There are a few, but what you're doing at the moment with Women's Legal Service Queensland, with being an ambassador, also a mentor to Team Whitsundays dancing CEOs, I mean, that's fairly all encompassing as it is. You're putting a lot of time and effort, and have done for many years, into Women's Legal Service Queensland.
Yeah.
Why Women's Legal Service Queensland, of all the charities? What's so important to you and so special about that organisation?
I think one of the things that I've realised through all of the different charity work I do, you've really got to look at where you're getting bang for your buck, and where an organisation is at a level of maturity and also organisational structure that the money really cuts through and goes where it needs to get to. So that's an important one. So I try to balance that with things such as Open Haven, who is much more of a new, really grassroots. They run on the smell of an oily rag and achieve amazing things. But Women's Legal Service has been going for 40 years, so they've got so much scope and so much reach, and they are directly filling such a critical service. That first frontline, hotline that women can call, and the amount of professionality, and I guess just that, as I say, that structure, that means that they can deliver so much. So when, if $1 million is raised and goes to them, they make it work, and
they get $1 million worth of
service that they're offering to our daughters, mothers, sisters, aunties, whoever it is, when those people are in need, is just, it's fabulous. I mean, ideally, I would love, there's so many charities that I would love to do an awful lot more for, which is why I did start My Giving Table. And it's mainly, the thing about My Giving Table is it's really about empowering other people to use their, I've set up a platform that anyone could could host a dinner party for a different charity, and I'm really just helping and supporting them with the infrastructure needed to compliantly raise funds for a charity that's worthwhile.
Because that's what My Giving Table is about, isn't it? It's that a person, so I could choose a charity that I want to
Correct.
support, and I could come to you and say, hey, I'd like to have a dinner party at home.
Yep.
I or you send out the invite for me, and everybody pays a price, and then that money's going to go to that charity. But it's me who picks the charity.
So you as the host pick the charity. You're choosing the food you cook. You're paying for that food. But it's basically taking away all of so many charity events happen in venues where there's a fee. So, like with our gala, it costs money to put the gala on. So the ticket price, only a small part, if any, goes towards the charity. All the funds are raised in the peripherals of raffles and auctions, etc. Whereas if you have a dinner in your home and you're donating the food and you're donating your time and you've cleaned the toilets and set the table, etc., all of that cost is gone. So if you choose what your friends might pay, you might say you can pay $20 to come to my dinner, or you can pay, between $20 and $200. And some people that can afford 20 pay 20. Some people that can afford 200 do. But all of that money is given directly to the charity, and nothing's filtered off to go back to Sharon, or the only costs that come out of my platform are just the costs of the Stripe fees or the the web fees and the compliant fees. The rest, I don't keep a cut, you don't keep a cut. So if $1,000 comes in, probably 950 go straight to the charity.
And so am I right in thinking that the purpose of there being My Giving Table, as opposed to me just ringing up my friends and saying, hey, come round to mine, pay for dinner and I'll donate it, is that there are compliances and requirements with...
Yeah, pretty much anyone who's raising money for a charity is actually supposed to, properly register. It's why there's a lot of compliance around, say, different appeals and things, because any of us could put a charity thing on our,
Correct.
and turn up on a door and say, how about you give me money? And that's really, so it was my understanding of business, and charities are a business.
Yes.
First and foremost. So it was my understanding of compliance for charities and charitable donations and business that led me to say, okay, because originally my first dinner party, I did that. It was the floods, I think, in 2012, 2013 in Townsville. I had a dinner party at home. I just rang my friends and I put it on Facebook. Anyone who wants to come over, I'm cooking curry, bring some cash, put it in the kitty, and I'm going to send it up to Townsville. Well, I could have had 2,000, 5,000. I ended up, I think, with 2,200, of which I gave 1,000.
Must have been a good curry.
Well, but you know what? I think I had 25 people come, and those that could afford would put $200 or $300 in. They trusted me personally to leave cash on my table.
Yeah.
For me, then I could have just as easily gone, great, I've got 2,000. I'm going to the pub.
Yes.
There's no compliance there.
Yeah.
If that's not what I did. I sent it up, and I had a friend who
I don't doubt you for 1 minute, Katelyn.
a friend who was flooded got a fridge, and another friend who was flooded got other kitchen, so, but it was literally but it was from my bank account straight into their bank account.
Yeah.
No oversight, no compliance, and it's not really the way. It's fine as an ad hoc, but I thought, you know what, this concept is really simple, and I guess so. I created the platform of My Giving Table is really a booking site.
Yes.
So for the host, I create it's like a simple RSVP event platform.
Yeah.
So the host just needs to share that link. Their friends can see exactly what it's for. The Office of Fair Trade has oversight of it.
Yes.
Auditing and compliance has. And then if Sharon's event has raised XYZ in tickets, all of that is tracked and checked and audited by my accountant, and et cetera, that they can see that money is not taxed.
Yes.
It goes directly to the charity. Anything that doesn't go to the charity is taxed. So
Yeah.
And Sharon, as the host, gets a tax-deductible donation receipt for the amount that goes to the charity. So it really is about, first and foremost, it's just that as a business person and understanding business, it's setting up the compliance there that no one else has to worry about that. It's done by my platform.
Did you set My Giving Table up while you were still down in Brisbane working for Gold and becoming the ambassador for Women's Legal Service?
Yeah, so pretty much I've always been hyperactive and I get bored easily. So having a full-time corporate role wasn't enough. I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would plan my website and liaise with builders and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, so that's now I've got a husband, I just don't have time.
I don't know about that, Katelyn. There's still 1,000,001 things going on in your. I can't keep up with you. You're incredible. But back to Women's Legal Service Queensland. So you're saying that of all the charities, that you can see the money going in the majority as as maximising what's needed from it. Can you explain what Women's Legal Service Queensland does? We've mentioned the hotline, but some of the services that they provide, some of the ways that they help women and children at a time of need. What does it look like? Yeah, what does it look like?
So, for example, one of the big things that I'd really love to have more people understand, because we always think of Women's Legal Service is most prevalent down in the southeast corner, because people feel like, oh, it's a Brisbane charity and it's focused.
Well, presumably that's where their office is, that's where they're based.
Most people, so most of their service is delivered remotely and online or over the phone.
Yeah.
So one of the first things to say is, if you are a woman in anywhere in regional or remote Queensland, you have the same access to ringing their hotline number. Now, if a woman rings that hotline number and says, I've got an issue, I need help, I don't know what my next step is, I'm in danger or my children are in danger, what do I do? Women's Legal Service basically do a full wraparound of, okay, Sharon, this is how it might look. You've got a service XYZ, we can hook you up with a counsellor over the phone. We can have you got court cases coming up? Great. We can give you free and confidential legal advice.
So it's almost like a triage, first of all.
It's kind of, so a lot of what Women's Legal Service will do is vet that call and say, okay, critically, you're not even at the point of needing the legal advice for court. You're really just needing an escape plan. So here are here's a centre near you. This is a counsellor that can help you, or this is what, the steps. So it helps to, if Women's Legal Service can't directly help, it directs you to where you can get help. So basically it's just at that initial point of saying, we'll set a plan in place for you and we'll take you through it all, or we can't help you right now, but this is where you go, and they will. So it's kind of, it's that whole 360 view of what that particular woman or family is needing at that particular time. It's just the first step to getting to a safe place.
And then within the organisation, there are various programs that are run, aren't there?
Yeah.
So things like, give me some examples.
Yeah. So over the last year, they've really been pushing out for their regional remote outreach, which is, I think, something that I'm hoping that over the next 10 years that will grow a lot more, and how that looks, because there is that perception that if you're not in Brisbane, you can't really get the help. But the fact is, yes, you can, but sometimes people need to see someone on the ground. So with their remote regional work that they're doing, they now have every 6 weeks or so, they're going to several communities, certainly not right up this way, but this way's on its, it's in the agenda. But certainly they'll visit. So they'll visit with a financial advisor, with a counsellor, with a legal advisor. So it might be that they visit Charleville, and there might be a group of women that have been referred for their care. How do I get out of financial control? How do I get out of coercive control? What does, my husband has bankrupted me. All our debts are in my name, but he's left me. What do I do? And so though a group of professionals go, I think, that there's about 4 of them specialising in those areas.
Yeah.
And a woman is getting a chance to have that face-to-face. That can still all happen via the phone hotline. That's the critical thing.
Right.
You don't need to be face-to-face to get that help and care. But I think Women's Legal have realised that by getting people out and doing that circuit and getting more of that face-to-face, it just empowers people to kind of see it more clearly what they're achieving.
Yeah. We'll put some links to their website and the hotline number, etc. Obviously in the description of this when it's shared. But in terms of, so these are the services they provide. You're very confident, having worked with them for all these years, that those services are really, you like you said, bang for your buck. And how insidious is this problem? How great is the need?
It's catastrophic. I mean, it really is. It's a blight on our society that we have gotten to a point that it is more of a pandemic plague than any of us could imagine. I know when I first started dealing with Women's Legal Service, it was 1 woman a week was losing her life to domestic violence. It is now more like 1 every 3 and a little bit days.
So this almost just doubled.
And
over since 2017.
Just in 7 or 8 years. So it is despicable, and I think it's there's so many layers to that. Financial stress on families, job stress on families, all of the doom and gloom about everything. There's so many areas we can face it, and it's not just saying men are bad and women are good. Far from it. It is actually that our society is really ill when this is the symptom that is coming from what is going on in our world. Our society really needs to band together and say, how do we change this? And there is no one easy approach, but I know if my daughter or mother was in a situation where her life was at risk, Women's Legal Service would at least be a darn good step in the right direction, and that's critical. But we've got so much further we've all got to go. And it does need to be an all of community understanding. It needs to be that school kids are understanding what it means when you're expecting your girlfriend to wear something or not wear something else, or there's pressure on the young guy to behave in a particular way. It starts with how we respect each other and how we respect our young, how we respect our men and women, and
Which is the
and
basic,
right through. It's pretty basic.
the basic premise of respect, full stop, hey?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to where I started, was that sense of, if you have had safety and security, you are one of the privileged few.
Yeah.
If you haven't experienced some sort of violence or abuse in your life. And if that's the case, then you have even more obligation to try and help and do better.
Yeah. So I can see how much this means to you, and obviously they say actions speak louder than words, and while your words are pretty powerful, your actions and how long you've been a part of the organisation, what you've committed to, and what you're still committed and ongoing. I can't see this ending anytime soon.
No.
They speak volumes louder than even everything that you're saying. But you then obviously went on to do the dancing CEO thing twice and then a third time. So you've got up on that stage 3 times. Put yourself through all of the work.
Yeah.
Because I think when I spoke to the other girls so far, one thing that has become quite obvious with their experience is that there is a lot of with it. Fundraising is hard work, and then you've got the dancing as well.
Yep.
So you went not twice but 3 times.
I was very lucky.
That's one way of looking at it. You did have certainly a team the last time, didn't you? Was it an all-star?
The last 2 times. So yes, so we had a mixed team a couple of years ago, and last year was their 10th anniversary. So they got teams of us back that had all danced before, pretty much. So yeah, they had all-star, and each experience has been fabulous. Fundraising is incredibly hard.
How much have you raised over for the 3 times that you've done it? Can you remember what you raised?
Well, I think including the jet raffle or the super yacht raffle, it's getting close to $500,000.
What you personally and your teams?
Yeah, which is actually quite small. Like Marissa and Laurelie, who are coming up, well, Marissa and Brendan are actually going to be our MCs at the gala. They raised, I can't remember, it was over $1 million, or they've raised so much, it's ridiculous. So no, I haven't raised that much really. I've got a lot more heavy lifting to do.
Wow. Okay. Because I
Not
always
that it's
think
a competition, mind you.
I've said this to you privately before, but I remember being involved with the Tour de Cure here in the Whitsundays before, and we had a goal where we had to raise $30,000 so that Sunrise would come here, Channel 7 Sunrise program would come here, and the community could present the check on television. And we had our 2 Tour de Cure riders, Shona and Woody, and they were doing the same sort of thing, running community events to raise money and awareness. And I remember that $30,000 being a real uphill struggle. So when you say $500,000, I know it's over 3 goes at it, but I am left in no doubt about how massive that is. I think you're downplaying the scale of it. That's huge.
And I think the thing is with fundraising, and when you see people, it's like Brendan who started the Epic Walk, Marissa who has started this amazing fashion event, Labels on the Lawn in Brisbane, which that one event alone can raise $300,000 in a day. It's amazing. And it is actually about you can do fundraising the hard, slow way, or you can try and use smart business practices that multiply it.
Yes.
And it's what I keep coming back to. The charity sector is a business sector at the end of the day.
Yes.
Which is where you need smart, business-minded people to actually leverage it and make it work.
Yeah.
Because just getting $1 at a time like a drip is really hard.
Yes.
But if you make something possible, it's where I most hope. I mean, my giving table's really only just started, but I hope it becomes something that, because it's so easy for many people to do a small amount of work and result in a great deal raised. And those are the steps that I think you need to do. And it's where trying to be entrepreneurial or business-minded in how you approach fundraising so that you leverage the ability, it goes further.
Well, that's a very smart approach, and it's obviously working. And for you, with the jet raffle, which is no longer the jet raffle, which I suppose we can get to now. So the jet raffle, you and Ada Gold kept that up for all those years, regardless of whether you were a dancing CEO or not, since year 1. And then somehow within this time, the Whitsundays comes in, and I guess that's you meeting
Mr. Collins.
Kev.
Best thing
I just want to just going aside from, if we just push all the amazing charity story to the side for a minute. You and Kev, Great Wall of China, that's where you met, isn't it?
Yep.
How did that? What were you doing in China? What happened?
So I was there representing Ada Gold. Kev was there representing the Whitsundays. Had been asked to go along to this sort of, it was a promote Queensland week in China. So there was various businesses from right across Queensland, various tourism bodies, Tourism Events Queensland, et cetera, were had all brought people together to come and meet potential, tourist sellers and, guests that might want to work business with Queensland from China, basically. So I was there with Addergold. Kev was there with the Whitsundays.
And for anyone who doesn't know, which probably wouldn't be too many people who are Whitsundays based, Kevin Collins was the face, or one of the faces, of Fish Divine, which was our iconic seafood restaurant and rum bar.
Yep.
And actually, he's worn, just like you, he's
Lots
worn
of hats.
many hats. He's been a councillor, sat up with Whitsunday Regional Council.
Yep. Started the fishing party.
Yes, I forgot about that. What else has he done? He's obviously started up White on Whitehaven, the iconic annual event, which is a white themed long lunch on our most iconic beach, Whitehaven Beach. There's a little bit like you. You two are peas in a pod in a way, because there's lots of
energy.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Kev's
imagine.
brain and his ideas and.
Your house it's got to be pretty busy, hey. So anyway, so he was there in that capacity, and go on. So was it did you hit it off at first?
So he was first on the bus, and he sat right up the front, and I always liked to sit up the front.
This is to the Great Wall.
Yeah, we were told to come down and get on the bus, and that was it, heading off to a day on the Great Wall of China. And he was first on the bus. I was last on the bus because I was juggling my two phones and doing emails right up until the last. And I always liked sitting up the front, and he was sitting right up the front, and he was wearing his North Queensland Cowboys scarf and beanie, synthetic. It's snowing outside. It wasn't the right thing to be wearing, but poor little, and I sat next to him straight away thinking, well, I'm a Townsville girl. I've got to sit next to the Cowboys supporter. Someone's got to love him. Because I thought, he's going to be cold. He's going to be suffering from exposure, not at all dressed properly. And the rest is history. He straight away got, anyone who sits with Kev for 5 minutes will know it's pretty hard not to love him within the first 5 minutes, because he's just got an amazing capacity for kind of connection and love. And
well, he's a real giver too.
He is a real giver. Yeah. Yeah, and it was when we really worked out that I can remember something happened, and I went, yep, he is genuinely. A lot of people pretend to be givers, but they do the look at me. Yeah. And so I kept my guard up until I worked out, no, he genuinely, there's no tickets he's got on himself. He just really is, just, if he can do something for anyone, he will.
So romance blossomed, and you ended up here in the Whitsundays.
Yeah.
But you obviously you were bringing everything with you. So you're still working on
when I first
prize,
moved up,
etc.
Yep. So I was still working for Addergold when I first moved up, and we were still. I pretty much Addergold was lucky. I pretty much just created the raffle prize each year, and I did all the liaising with Women's Legal Service, and Addergold just got to come along and sort of be the naming rights, and that was lovely. It worked very well.
But I think that's where you started to pull in elements of the Whitsunday community to sort of reach out, if you like, and the tendrils started spreading in the Whitsunday community, because it was then that you took elements like the flight was no longer going to be a trip to Sydney. You were going to actually, people would fly here. It was here they were going to come.
I think it was the third year that we made the flight here, so I hadn't moved up myself, but Kev and I were already, communicating. So I think the first couple of years the prize was down to the Hunter Valley. No, we did 3, Hunter Valley, Mudgee and Sydney. And then I think the 4th year the prize came up here, and Coral Sea got behind it. And then every year since then, we've made it more with the big focus on the Whitsundays.
Yeah.
And every year it gets, bigger and better, really.
So this year, for the first time, Addergold are not involved anymore.
Yep.
I imagine that initially, because I suppose you're not working for them anymore, of course. But even when you had stopped working for them, I think they were still supporting.
Absolutely, yeah, they've been fabulous.
And this year you went and went to them, and they, it's my understanding they're not.
Yeah, there was a few changes that they'd had, and a few issues with guaranteeing the supply of the aircraft that we needed, and we just thought, you know what, that's fine. It's been it's been
7 happy years.
7 amazing years, and it's been really good, good for them and amazing for what we've achieved through that raffle. But then it just became something, well, how else can we make it even more spectacular? And that was where we thought, well, an hour on a private aircraft is pretty good, but 4 hours on a super yacht's even better, really.
So tell me about what this year's prize looks like, because it's no longer the jet raffle.
No,
it's the super yacht.
So the prize this year will be business class flights from Brisbane for 6 people up to the Whitsundays. They will have beautiful accommodation at a private 4-bedroom villa. They will have
that's at the Cove.
At the Cove. They will have a lovely VIP private experience at Coral Sea Resort in the bungalows there. They get tickets to this year's White on Whitehaven, and they get to the White on Whitehaven on a beautifully donated super yacht. So I think that's pretty much it.
What's the total value of that prize?
It's about a $35,000 prize, which you can buy for $25 to get a chance to win.
That's amazing. So tickets literally start at $25.
$25, and I can tell you, I've been there for every single prize winner, and I've been with them when they've been enjoying the prize that they've won, and none of them can believe how lucky they are that they win. It's
how do we get tickets, Katelyn?
So tickets, I guess, Sharon, we follow the link. Will there be a link in this video?
I'm sure there will be.
Yes,
sure.
We'll be sharing on our socials. And
yes, there's also the Team Whitsundays.
The Team Whitsundays will have it, and it will also be on the Women's Legal Service
correct
side as well.
Yes, because it's so how you've incorporated this with dancing CEOs. Again, this is something that I find incredibly generous, because when you were a dancing CEO and you started the jet raffle as with Gold, you didn't actually just funnel proceeds from the whole lot into your Katelyn Aslett team, did you?
No.
What you did was give it to all the dancing CEOs, but then you could take half of it, or your team could take half of it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, no, our the way it works now is there's a sponsor code. So anyone who buys through the sponsors code, that money goes, to the team as such that I choose. Which, if I'm not, I happen to be aligned with the team Whitsundays, so we've said great. So anything that goes through the normal code, but each dancing CEO gets their own code. So if they happen to sell more, it all goes to them.
Right.
So, and really it's, I guess at the end of the day, we're raising money for the cause.
For the same cause.
For the same cause, for the same cause. And it's really just a tool. It's just a tool that CEOs that are struggling to raise the money that they want to, if they share the jet raffle with their networks and it goes further, well, number one, it's good for all the sponsors because it's going further. It's good for women's legal because it's raising more. And
but there is a bit of friendly competition, isn't there?
Oh,
because the teams they are actually sort of vying with each other for who's going to be top of the leaderboard and who's going to raise the most money, and so from that perspective, I'm surprised in some ways that you. Well, I'm not surprised, because knowing you, even just the small amount I do, and I'm sure it comes across in everything that you're saying, that's not the essence of who you are. But still, it's from that level of competition to, well, no, this is the whole cause. It's about the whole. It's that very holistic approach. So
well, and at the end of the day, and look, and every year there is a whole lot of friendly competition about who's going to raise the most. But
Who's going to dance the best?
and here's the lovely leveling thing, is it's not easy for anyone. So what happens is when anyone does genuinely raise a huge amount, everyone's just in awe and admiration rather than in, because it's coming from that place of abundance and big-heartedness, not, I think we might as well all be focused on abundance rather than on scarcity.
Yeah, it's about broadening rather than narrowing.
It is around what can be achieved. And certainly when sponsors, we've got early on, a lot of the sponsorship I would get is I would say, look, I'll cover the wholesale costs, or I'll cover, to get people involved. And each year as it's gone, because the reach has grown, and it's all about leverage as a business.
Yeah.
If you're donating a prize, you're wanting people to know that you've done something, for other people's good other than yourself. So you're wanting to see that leverage. So every year, because the reach has gotten so much further and the kudos has gotten greater, then people can be more generous with what they're giving.
Yeah.
So even if I say, can I cover, this or that or the other, they go, no, happy to donate it in full. They can only do that because they're getting some positive kickback, whether that be just people admiring them more, people knowing them, all of that.
Yeah.
And that's where sort of business thinking needs to come into it.
Correct.
It's got to be a win-win.
Yeah.
A lot of charities sit and say, I've got a great cause, therefore everyone should just give me money.
Yes.
If they're not thinking of what the win-win is for those giving them the money, they're going to keep missing the mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be a win-win.
Yeah. We've mentioned the team Whitsundays an awful lot, but haven't actually explained the fact that you coming here with your life verging with Kev Collins and getting married and becoming Katelyn Aslett-Collins and coming to the Whitsundays. It wasn't just the jet raffle that you bought here and your ongoing relationship with Women's Legal Service and Dancing CEOs. You were heavily involved in the formation of the very first Whitsundays team of dancing CEOs.
Yep.
And you are mentoring that team.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about how that happened from where you're sitting, your perspective.
So because I danced in 24, so yeah, we're 25. So I danced last year. And a few of the people that know me locally had kind of seen that and thought, oh, that looks fun. How do we get a little bit of involvement here? And I ran into the dynamic and vivacious Candice Crossley in town. And Candice said, oh, look, I really want to catch up. I really want to be doing more, in the charity space. I thought, have you got any ideas? I said, oh, well, yes, I do.
Of course you do. Several.
Let me sign you up. And I said, Candice, I'm trying to find a team. I've got a couple of people that have sort of said they might, but they fell through. And I said, let's do this, even if it's just you. And she said, give me a day. I'll get a team. And she did.
She came back with not just one other person, but three. So there's four.
She came back with the most incredible, amazing, and I don't think any of them got a chance to say no.
No, I doubt they did.
Because you don't say no to Candice.
No,
because she's a life force, and that was it was just fabulous, and I'm so pleased because what it means is we are likely to create an ongoing legacy, and some of these events, like the epic walk that we're having at Coral Sea, will hopefully become a regular on our calendar, and they will build awareness. They will get people understanding what Women's Legal Service does. They will help raise more money, and it will improve our community here on the ground over the next 10, 20 years. And that's what I'm doing.
I have no doubt that if it's an ongoing thing, you will be around to mentor the next team and the next team and the next team as well.
Yeah.
But just tell me, what what is involved? So you're not dancing this year, 2025. It's the team Whitsundays. It's the 4 girls who are dancing. But what's involved for you as a mentor? What things are you doing to? Because I mean, you might not be on that stage, but you're still as an integral part of the team as anyone else.
I think I'm really just, hoping that I can support them in any way, either by, giving them moral support, helping them with some, the fundraising is a big one. And I know how hard it was for me that first year on my own to work out how to fundraise. And I pretty much was abysmal at it. But every year that I'm involved in seeing how, how it works and how other people raise, I think that's the critical thing, is supporting in that space.
I know you're using the My Giving Table platform as a means for people to be able to buy tickets to the Team Whitsundays fundraising events. So, for example, you've mentioned the gala. So there's a masquerade gala ball coming up, and it's through My Giving Table that people are able to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And you also did that for their very first fundraiser last year, which was the Christmas Cocktails for a Cause. So you're providing that platform.
Yeah.
That's one way that you're doing it.
Yep.
I know because that's another thing that we haven't even really mentioned, other than right at the start saying the name, your cafe out at the
The little snack bar at the airport.
just the little side hustle, just
that's right, I have a business.
The business that you've got running out of the Whitsunday Coast Airport, just welcomes how many travellers is it a year that come
That's
to?
a lot.
Yeah, a few hundred thousand.
I think I just worked out on our 3rd birthday, we've hit about 750,000 guests come.
So it's not a small thing that you've got going on there. People can also find flyers for raffles for the Team Whitsundays events, buy tickets. All those.
We're trying to get it. We're getting an airport team together. Hopefully, we'll get the hosties and the the ground crew.
And that's for the Epic Walk. Now, the Epic Walk it's a little bit complicated because it's not necessarily a dancing CEO event. It started by 2 Brendans in Brisbane who were previously dancing CEOs.
And they're also ambassadors.
And Women's Legal Service ambassadors like you are.
Exactly.
But that, just like the raffle, has continued regardless of the fact that they are no longer dancing CEOs.
Exactly. So,
and funds can go through dancing CEOs accounts, for want of calling it something better.
So pretty much the Epic Walk, all the funds raised do go to Women's Legal Service. But again, it's raining very hard again. The funds raised all go to Women's Legal Service, but they've kept it as a separate entity just because it's easier to work that out. So the Epic Walk is from Epic Hair.
That's Brendan Mann, isn't it?
That's the business, that Brendan owns. And so he, again, I think it shows how deeply everybody who gets involved with dancing CEOs values the work that's done.
That they carry on.
Because it takes a lot to raise money. And when you raise money and you see it doing good, you're inspired to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so many of the past contributors to Dancing CEOs have maintained that commitment and that involvement and that legacy, to the point that, for our gala, we've got Marissa, who has danced, I think she's danced 3 times as well. Brendan and Brendan have danced 2 or 3 times. They have both between them just raised astronomical.
Yeah, huge.
But they're coming up. They're paying their own way to come up and be our MCs at our gala, for example. They're all that sense of giving and supporting each other, not just in your cohort for that year, but beyond that is astounding. And that, I think, is why I'm so proud of the girls involved this year, because they will be a part of that continuing, cohort or legacy.
Yes.
And as much as they want to be involved, they can and will be.
Yeah.
And it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Epic Walk, again, was something that was started in Brisbane. But what you're working towards right now with in conjunction with Team Whitsundays and with the Coral Sea Marina, where we're sitting right now, is that this year, 2025, it's going to be held in the Whitsundays for the first time.
Yep.
And also that money registration fundraising from the Whitsundays walk will be funneled through Team Whitsundays into Women's Legal Service Queensland.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the Whitsundays Epic Walk. So it's on Sunday the 30th of March, isn't it?
Yes. So Sunday morning, everyone will muster here at about 6:30. There'll be a 5-kilometre walk. People register. They can either register to join a team. They could join our Team Whitsundays team. They could join the Taste Whitsundays airport team. They could just create their own team.
Or come as an individual.
Try to, raise a few $100s.
And it's cheap. It's not expensive.
It's not
This
expensive.
isn't like the gala or anything like that. It's just
registration, I think, is about $25. You get a shirt. You get a little breakfast at the end. I think you get a drink bottle. You get something to keep from your registration, and then hopefully your friends will sponsor or give you some money for the fact that you're doing it. There'll be a prize given to the person who raises the most. I think we're getting a little raffle prize going for that as well. There'll be speeches and fun and dancing and
entertainment on the lawn.
Entertainment and puppy dogs and picnics on the day. It'll just be fun. Maybe under umbrellas if it's raining.
Let's hope this has gone away by then, Katelyn. We've got a little bit of time, so that's not too bad.
But it's going to be a fun community day. And again, we've got a few of the different services that support this sector will be there as well. Some of the different sponsors whose businesses have supported will be there as well. So it'll just be a lovely event.
Yeah. So another thing I think that's I have mentioned it a couple of times. It's happened in the middle of everything else, but you being awarded the Queensland Gives Emerging Philanthropist of the Year for 2024.
Yep.
I think it was Women's Legal Service Queensland that put you up for it, wasn't it?
They did, which was very kind of them.
I can see why.
And I was pretty shocked and humbled, and I thought when I look at what I've done, I see everything I haven't done. I don't see what I've done. I always feel I'm only 10% of the way there with anything that I do. So I don't feel particularly, I was quite shocked even to be nominated, and then to win, I was dumbfounded, quite frankly, because basically I'm just doing what I love to do and feel it's a little bit like, it comes back to that sense of the obligation and it's not even an obligation. I think just privilege. We are most happy and whole as a human being, I feel, when we're doing what makes us feel good. And what makes me feel good is doing more for other people. Therefore, it's very selfish, quite frankly, is what I'm...
I see your point, but I beg to differ in some ways. I actually, I really loved the blog that you wrote on your My Giving Table site about when you won that award. And it was either the blog or it was where you shared it on Facebook. And I made a note of this because it was something that I really loved that you said. You said, philanthropy is a big word, but we can give so easily to others if we take the moment to have gratitude for where we are and don't wait until we acquire everything we desire for a perfect life. Our perfect life is now, so seize the day, be kind, it costs nothing, have gratitude and give to others, it gives back to you. Look who is on the ladder below you and take time to support them to get higher. It's pretty simple, really. And that really resonated with me. I think another thing that really resonated with me at that time was that you described yourself. You said that winning the award had given you a pause to consider what mattered most to you. And that as a result, you've given yourself a new title, which is kindness advocate.
That's it's a big lofty title, isn't it?
I think it's beautiful. But you also said, as a kindness advocate, I hope to shine light on beautiful and real acts of kindness in our community and rejoice in good news because I love stories of kindness and acts of giving. I strongly believe that when times are tough, optimism and hope are needed and nothing fuels hope like kindness. I think that's really beautiful, Katelyn.
Thank you. Yeah. They sound good when I hear them back.
Look, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking to everybody through me, through this, through what Phil and I are doing. It's really I think you have some incredible messages. You're very inspirational and
Thank you.
yeah, I can't wait to see what's next if I can keep up with you.
What the next 10 years bring.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have we all got enough energy for this, Katelyn?
I'm just so proud of the girls and where they're going to go too. But thank you, Sharon. It's been lovely. Yeah, and it's now raining a lot.
I hope we need to get you an umbrella.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for sitting through one of our very first Whitsunday People video podcasts. We really hope that what you listened to or watched meant something to you. We think these women connected to Team Whitsundays Dancing CEOs and Women's Legal Service Queensland have an amazing story to tell, each of them. And we really hope that that came across and that you felt that too. I would like to reiterate that if you or anyone you know is experiencing domestic or family violence, or if there was anything that you found unsettling about anything that was discussed, then please do follow the helpline links in this podcast description. I'd also like to point out that because this is a fledgling podcast, we don't have a huge following yet. We are doing this for love. We're not doing it as a moneymaker at this stage. We're actually helping these ladies out. How you can help to get this message out more and thereby hopefully help them raise more money is by liking it, by sharing it, by subscribing, by doing all of those things that help just build a movement and spread the word. So we hope that we can carry on doing this and bringing you more content like this. Thank you.